Hi, I'm going to do a presentation tonight about a lot of projects that are coming up. There's 8 large buildings that we're in various stages on. Some we've put in estimates and we haven't been approved yet, and some are actually being built at the moment. And there's one interesting thing that's been happening is that we're actually getting a decline in requests lately. This has not happened before. You can see it there. So we need to do some press releases and outreach to kind of get that going again. The other thing that's been happening is that we're getting a lot of big building requests. And, you know, Grand Street was our first big install, where we are at the moment. And from that, we've been getting other requests. So here they all are. There's 3 up in the Bronx there. There's one nature one, which we've been working on for about two years. And there's two other ones up there, which are new buildings. And that's with Catholic Charities, the same people as at Grand Street. And another one in East New York, which is a nature building, and that's in collaboration with a company that's doing solar panels on the roofs there. And 165 Broome Street, which is just across here on this block. That's getting close now. They're putting in the last few floors. And down in Sunset Park, we've got 2 buildings there from the 5th Avenue Committee, and so that's this will help in that area because Sunset Park Library is the tallest building for miles around there, so that's going to be a big boost to that area. And lastly, we've got one in Staten Island, which will be our first one out there. So these buildings come under basically 3 different management companies. There's Olive Branch Catholic Charities, which is here. So that's the Broome Street, Belmont Cove, and the 2 in the Bronx, and the one in Staten Island. And then there's 5th Avenue Committee, which is 50th Street and Sunset Park Library. They're very close together. And there's NYCHA, which is Morrisania Air Rights in the Bronx, and Pink Houses in East New York. So this is 165 Broome Street, the building next door that's going up at the moment. And an important thing we realized with doing Grand Street is we overcommitted a bit. So this contractors are doing almost everything in the Broome Street, so they'll be doing all the cabling, and all we do is put in the panels and the home routers. So it's 232 apartments. It's a lot of apartments, and we're doing every apartment. It's not like here where we're doing it on demand. We've done about 156 apartments out of 600 here, but in the new building we'll be doing every apartment. So the Bronx, we've been trying to get up there for a long time, and now we've got 3 buildings that are pretty definite, the 3 of them. And you can see we've Rob J helped get CCNY going there, up there. So it's that's within line of sight of the NYCHA building, which is a really tall building, and the other 2, we'll probably have to run fiber to the other 2. So that's Morrisania Air Rights. It's a brutalist building. I love it. It's a great building there, and we're just putting in using it as a hub, so the antennas on the rooftop there. Yeah, we'll be financing it. We did have an RFP from the city. We won the RFP and they were going to give us money to do this, but it got cancelled by the mayor. So yeah, we're going to pay for it ourselves. This is well, Belmont Cove they haven't started it, so here's the plans for it. It's going up in the Bronx, 153 apartments. Be fiber to the apartment, similar to what we've done here. And St. Anselm, another new building. It's 120 apartments. That's pre-wired, so it's Ethernet. So it's going to be very, very simple to do that one. So that's it in the Bronx. So hopefully with these 3 buildings, we'll have a really strong presence in the Bronx now. So Sunset Park, we've always had a problem with Supernode 3. It's not that tall, and so we have problems getting line of sight there. But this Sunset Park Library is actually the tallest building for miles there, and yeah, so we're going to set up a hub there with a gigabit connection to Supernode 3, and that's going to be able to connect all of the area around there, Sunset Park Library. And it's the same management company, Fifth Avenue Committee. It's the 50th Street building just 2 blocks away there. So this is the Sunset Park Library. That's the drawings we did for it. So we'll have 2 non-penetrating stands on that. Yeah, with sectors facing 360 degrees. And 2 blocks away is the 50th Street building, and it's 48 apartments, and they're renovating them. It's with these buildings, a lot. I think it's a new city rule. When they renovate them, they've got to put internet in there for the tenants. So a few of these projects are renovations. And what they do is they move the tenants out for 2 weeks, renovate it. We come in, put in the internet, and the tenant moves back in. And so this will be gradual. We'll probably do 6 apartments at a time. Like every few weeks or so, we'll do 6 apartments there until we do all 48. So there they're doing all the risers. So we just drop a cable down the riser, have a panel in the basement, point to point to Sunset Park Library, and we'll do a light beam to SN3 as a backup. This is an interesting project. It's way out in East New York. We got nothing out there. And so this would have to be fiber. And it's 20 buildings. We're just going to be having fiber to one building and then just point-to-points connecting the rooftops of all the other buildings. The solar panels need internet on each rooftop, so we'll be able to supply that. And we'll do access points the same way we've done here and at Vernon. So we'll do access points on the ground as well. And the solar company is doing a lot of these buildings. I think it's like 60 projects they've got, and this is just one project. There's 20 buildings. And yeah, so if this goes well, it could be a lot of buildings. It's with NYCHA, which is always difficult, so we'll see how it goes. And it's Sole Purpose, the name of the solar company. And yeah, being NYCHA, we're paying for it. So And last one here is Staten Island. We've got nothing at all on Staten Island. We don't have one install there, so this will be our very first one. It's on the north side of Staten Island there. It's called West Brighton Houses. It's 8 buildings. So it's 574 low-income apartments. So it'll be fiber to the apartment. It's NYC's kind of privatizing some of the buildings, and it's called packed when they privatize them. So this is a packed building. So it was NYC just a year or two ago, and so it's being renovated. So it's the same deal where they'll vacate 8 apartments or so, and then we go in and run the fiber, and the people move back in. So it'll be spread out over a long while. Staten Island, we'd love to get local people involved because it's a long way to get out there. I was out there with Annabelle last week, and yeah, it's like an hour and a half just to get there. And another thing with Staten Island is our usual rooftop thing's not going to work out there because it's a lot of houses and a lot of trees, so we won't be able to do our standard wireless meshing thing. So we have to come up with a different strategy out there. What we could do is a fiber ring. There's a lot of nature buildings there, so that we might be able to get some more buildings, and that way you can do, instead of having fiber going all the way back to a data center, you just do fiber onto the next building, and you can build up a fiber ring that way. And it's a lot of advantages in that you have a redundant connection because every building has 2 fibers going into it, and you save a lot of money because you're only doing short runs of fiber rather than doing it all the way back to the data center. So that's it for all the different projects, and apart from nature, they all have a budget and we'll get paid for them. But one thing I'd really like us to consider is the FCC Affordable Connectivity Program, ACP. The FCC will pay $30 a month to connect an apartment, and anyone in a low-income building qualifies automatically. So if we get this, it would completely change our financing. We would get so much money for every apartment we connect. It requires registering as an ISP, and we discussed this last year, and we couldn't get a consensus at all. But I'd like to have another attempt at it. I'm thinking we could form an affiliate company that is the ISP, and they could basically collect the payments and do support. And but yeah, I'd like to get the debate on that going again. Another reason is that when we put in estimates for the cost on these, we're going up against other people that are getting the $30, so they're able to do reduce their monthlies to nothing because they're getting the $30 a month. So to be more competitive against those other people, we should be getting it as well. Like other community networks are doing this, and we're the only one I know of that isn't. So that's it for the big building projects that are coming up. Thank you. Any questions?
We have a mic for questions. We have new microphones. Fancy. Can you hear me? Everyone, hopefully. So in terms of kind of these outlying areas, I think, the big question with these is, how are we going to connect them to the existing networks? I imagine Staten Island, or to our existing network. Are we looking at doing what we've been doing with, remote areas up until this point where we have a commercial, a commercial ISP connection, and then we're VPNing back into the mesh network, or?
No, it would be basically points of presence all around there.
Okay.
Small data centers. And,
Okay.
So we would connect to one on Staten Island there. And there's cheaper fiber you can get, not dark fiber, it's Ethernet over fiber.
Okay.
So we might do that.
Okay. So there's local
Yeah.
places where
Yeah,
we can
Crown
get
Castle-
on an IPX or something.
Crown Castle that has done all of our fiber so far is basically wherever Verizon is.
Okay.
So yeah, we would lease fiber back to a POP here, and
Okay.
and then Ethernet back to 111/8 or something.
Okay.
Is that right, Zach?
Yeah. A nice benefit, you guys might remember last year, maybe the year before, when we started doing this build out, I said we're gonna put a point of presence in 111 8th Avenue. And it's this data center, we're paying money to be there, so it kind of makes this building more expensive. So if this was the only thing we ever did, it wouldn't make any sense to do that. But as soon as you start adding up additional fiber connectivity, if you add up 2 sites, 3 sites, after you cross over like 5 sites, the cost per site becomes half, if you will, right? So there's an economy of scale in a very low number. So, we can connect with different providers, Crown Castle, OCG, some other ones, right? And they have different products like dark fiber to here, but we can do Ethernet over those fibers, and we can connect them back in one of our central locations. So we basically can get anywhere in the city if there's a big enough building that can, that the money is there to be able to afford to do it. So we still need to have an economy of scale. It has to be 20, 30, 50 apartments to be able to make it worthwhile. So an 8-building complex in Staten Island is definitely affordable for us to be able to do that. Something in the Bronx, those are affordable for us to do fiber to those buildings, as long as they pay, the very low quote that we give them, like the very reasonable estimate we give them. If they're able to do that, then we can definitely afford it on our side, because we have a central POP. If we didn't, it'd be a bit of a mess. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Yeah, here's one.
Quick question or request for clarification. You were talking about the solar panels on the pink houses,
Yeah.
and I didn't really understand how that worked. Is Mesh providing internet so that solar panels can communicate with whoever operates them, or can you just maybe go over that one more time?
Everyone wants to monitor their equipment, so with the solar panels, they usually have a internet connection in the basement, or they get wireless connection, like a. Yeah.
So are we helping them out? Are we
Yeah.
helping that that's just like a symbiotic relationship?
Yeah, I think he said it cost them like $400 for each one of the wireless things they were going to use,
Oh, I see.
so we saved them on that. And
And then are they?
but because it's so hard to work with Nitro, if you can collaborate with someone, it usually makes it easier.
Yeah.
So they've already, got the leases for the roof, and
So we're basically using their vicinity or using their immediate area, and then in exchange for getting entree, and then also
Yeah.
helping them with reducing their costs. Something like that.
yeah, they really like us, the solar panel people. So they want us to be on the buildings, and but it's like Nitro. You got to have a process going, and like with Morrisania Air Rights, because we haven't spoken to them for a few months, everyone's changed positions. So I actually have to figure out who's got the. My emails were going nowhere, so I had to figure out who's got the new positions again. And but yeah, so if we're working with the solar people, there'll be a process going at Nitro, and it should be a lot smoother.
Okay, that makes sense. And the reason I ask is it's always good to have replicable case studies. We working with, like, for example, there's solar panel on the top of the roof. and we worked with them, and it worked out really well. If we can, I'm sure this will happen at some point, if we get some bullet points describing how that worked out, how well it worked out, then you could probably find other locations with the same solar panel vendor or other solar panel vendors to kind of collaborate with, and like you said, not have to deal with NYCHA or have an easier conversation with future vendors.
This is about the 5th solar panel company I've tried to get something going with, but they came to us, which makes it easier.
That's always nice. Yeah. Okay, just kind of curious about that. I'd like to learn more as the relationship progresses. But I've spoken enough.
The biggest positive thing for us was doing the Grand Street. So now Catholic Charities has got us to put in bids for other buildings, and that's been the biggest breakthrough for us.
Yeah, it seems like.
Anybody else want this? Scepter?
I've got one question about the Staten Island slide. You were mentioning that a lot of the houses are single story and below the tree line, and that wouldn't particularly work with our current infrastructure.
Yeah.
Is there, what do you recommend in terms of alternatives?
We could try LTE, just like phone hotspots. There's a project in Seattle that's doing that, a community network there. Infrared on Slack talks about it. But like the gable roofs, like they're really hard to put an antenna on. And if we could just do hotspots, then it's a very, very simple way to do that. That's the only way I could see it doing houses.
Is that licensed spectrum, or is that something where we'd have to kind of go out of our wheelhouse to learn and
I want to
register and
talk
stuff?
to Infrared about it more. I'm pretty sure she's using open. Sorry, what is it?
CBRS? Okay.
Community broadband, something. It's not citizen's band.
Any other questions? So we might go on to the next, the hack night.
Hey, so this is just a quick ad for our meetup we do every Tuesday when we don't have the org meeting. And it's called Hack Night. You can do a lot of fun things like learn new skills. That's the fiber splicing machine that we use to connect all the buildings in Grand Street. You can climb sketchy ladders like Andrew and Daniel there. Work on whatever project you're interested in, or actually do some splicing to connect other buildings. And then sometimes we just go for dinner afterwards and just talk to each other.
Yeah, it's pretty casual. Just, come hang out, come see what other folks are working on, ask lots of questions. It's sort of like after, right here, I think we're going to do just sort of some breakouts, but it's sort of more like that than like this. But then usually people bring stuff to work on, or they ask questions, and, it's sort of a little bit more project focused. Yeah,
hope to see you there.
Tuesday nights.
And there's one small presentation that Marg did for us that I'm going to attempt to present. Oh, you're here.
Yeah. You can do it too.
I thought you couldn't make it.
Yeah, I had a class, but it got out early. Hey everybody, I'm Marg. So something that happened last year that's really exciting is that we applied for and were awarded 5 full-time supported volunteer positions through the AmeriCorps Vista program. And if you don't know, the AmeriCorps Vista program is like the Domestic Peace Corps. VISTA stands for Volunteers in Service to America. And basically, they will provide a living expense stipend for a person who is willing to volunteer full-time 40 hours a week to end poverty in this country. And so our project that we proposed to have 3 VISTA members concentrating on community building, community organization, and outreach around the new developments that we're working on to involve the neighborhoods that we're connecting, and 2 VISTAs to work on technical projects, probably programming or systems design. That was approved. And it's a pretty cool thing because we were the first projects to be approved ever without having paid staff to manage the volunteers. And our argument was, we are an all-volunteer community organization. We know a lot about volunteer management, and just like you saw with the Hack Night presentation about encouraging each other and strengthening each other's skills, teaching each other, and being cheerleaders for each other. So we were awarded the 5 positions. The stipend is, it's a 1-year commitment, as I said, full-time. Full-time in Mesh lingo is flexible because maybe you have to get on a 9 o'clock Zoom with other people to plan something. Maybe you have to meet community organizations, on their schedule on the weekend. So I'm sure, given the culture of Mesh, this is all very flexible. So if you know anybody or you yourself are without a plan for the next year and you love Mesh and you want to give a year of your life in service to the Mesh and to end poverty in this country, this is for you. What do you get for doing this? They have lots of educational awards. They have child care allowance. I don't know how much it is, but if that's your situation, they can help you secure some child care through programs. Basically, the living allowance is a percentage of poverty wage. So it comes out to $27,000 a year in New York City for the next cycle. Like, it'll vary a little bit. It's based on some index that the federal government will determine, but as of the last chart that I looked up, it's about 27K. And they will cover your health care, whether it's supplementing the health care that you already have or paying for a certain expensive, government health care plan. At the end of your successful year of service, they will give you money towards education or loans, or if that's not your situation, they'll give you cash, a little bit less. I think it was like $6,000 or $7,000, if I recall correctly. And paid leave was very generous. You can take personal days, sick days, family leave days, hospitalization days, serving in the military days. There were very, very many reasons you could take time off. And basically that 27K is $70 per day for 365 days. So basically they allow you to take the time that you need to take care of your business. And they offer a lot of avenues for professional development. Of course, volunteering full-time with Mesh, you will get a lot of professional development. You can, get a lot of community outreach experience, grant writing experience. You can get technical experience, programming and network administration experience. Anything that you would like, I'm sure Mesh can help you develop, given our broad band of volunteers. But also, AmeriCorps Vista has a lot of avenues for professional development. So they have an extensive training program for the Vistas themselves, like how to get the most out of your service year. They also have, you can see on the website, like lots of different courses and webinars that you can attend, and probably at some other point in time, in-person conferences that you can attend, that they really want people who give a year of their life to service to have some a leg up when they're coming out. There's also, like, if you're into getting a federal job, there's also shortcuts there, where if they will count this service toward, getting a federal position. And there was some stuff about loans. While you're doing your service, you don't have to pay your student loans. At the end of the service, they give you money towards your student loans. And if you're coming from more than 50 miles away, we have one candidate who might come from California. They will pay you like 40 cents or 0.04, I don't know, some percentage per mile from California. It came out to like $1,200. So is that right? No, it was more than that. Yeah, something like that. So, you know, a little bit toward your airfare or your shipping for moving. And then, you know, as an organization, maybe I've been trying to, I don't know what channel to post in, but if anyone is not interested in serving as a Vista, but interested in helping to manage the project that the Vistas are working on, like helping to advise them and mentor them, or helping to screen their applications, or whatever it should be, let me know or let Brian know. And also, maybe as an organization, we can figure out what types of perks we as Mesh might want to offer to someone who takes a deal for $27K to live in New York City to help us, you know, to help our movement. Some of the things that are suggested are money towards transit, money towards utilities.
Another thing is that if you're in the AmeriCorps program, that stipend doesn't necessarily count. I worked with AmeriCorps before at one point, and that stipend doesn't actually count as normal income, so you can actually, because it's a living stipend, not income, so you actually can get various benefits. So one thing to offer them might be help in applying for various programs, because I know when I was managing a program, granted this was quite a few years ago actually, you know, we could help the AmeriCorps volunteers get on food stamps and get, you know, a housing stipend as well. So if
Good point.
you have that set up, it makes it a lot easier to convince someone that, you know, they can afford to do something like this.
That's an excellent point. And in fact, we're starting to get applications coming through Vista, so it's people who already knew about Vista who are looking for a program to match themselves to. But also, the Vista program hired a recruitment specialist to help, because in this time, it's really hard to find people to fill jobs, especially a volunteer-based job. But because you're going to be living on some proportion of poverty wage, you will, and you're saying it doesn't count as earned income.
At least in terms of certain federal benefits.
Okay, so
I don't know whether.
So basically, you are very poor when you're doing this. The 27,000 may not count when you're like applying for food stamps or for you know, reduced fare bus pass or something like that. I looked at that actually. I think you can get a half-price MetroCard with zero income, but with 27K you couldn't. So, you know, if it's true that they don't count it toward your income, then you would get, or, you know, or maybe that's something Mesh would sponsor for somebody. So I guess let's continue that discussion and see who we attract. And, you know, I would think we would want to make it fair for across the board. Now, how do I get back to here? Let's see. I fell asleep. There you go. Is that my last slide? Yeah, that must be my last slide. So what is our project? We had to sort of flesh out something to tell AmeriCorps. It can change. If you really love the idea of serving, but this project is not the way we've stated it, is not exactly what you want to do, I'm sure there's a lot of flexibility, as long as the project is building the capacity of NYC Mesh to serve people to end poverty. So what we proposed was the 3 outreach vistas would be working in different communities, trying to set up more mesh rooms. Like, how do you do that? I don't know, but you make phone calls, you meet community organizations, you find out who has space, who has a need, you know, who we can work with. One possibility is we met with Youth Action Youth Build in East Harlem, and they typically do like pre-construction, pre-apprenticeship training to get kids into construction, and which are high-paying, high-benefit jobs with, you know, needing only a high school education. So they help them get their GRE, they train them for the trades. Well, they just started a new networking track, and that's why they contacted us, because they're going to have all these young people learning networking principles, and they own real estate in East Harlem. So it just seems natural that they would build some hubs on top. So the Vistas are not allowed to, as part of their 40 hours, build the hubs. Of course, they can volunteer on their weekends and evenings or time off to do what we do as Mesh volunteers, but their main 40 hours should be spent building the capacity of New York City Mesh. So making the connections in the communities, building the databases and the systems, and the wrangling the volunteers, you know, to we have so much talent that is untapped, like so much talent that is very useful, has been stepping forward, and there's probably 50 times more of that in our membership. So maybe one of the jobs would be for the Vistas to reach out to members, you know, and do more member engagement, get the newsletter back on track and that kind of thing. So we're open to brainstorming. On the technical side, we don't know what language, but there's a lot of programming projects that could be done, project management organization that can be done, you name it. So if you can think of a way that your skills, video production, I was thinking that maybe some of our documentation should be in videos that are, you know, someone new to the mesh just clicks on the video and it explains, you know, a quarter of the stuff that they need to know. Right now we have text, and that's great, but not everybody's good at reading lots and lots of text. Or maybe organizing our text so it's easier to find. So you name it, any project that you would normally do on your regular mesh volunteer hours, if you want to do it full-time for a year, we can support you with federal funds and maybe a little bit of mesh funds. And please, maybe you know someone graduating college who wants to take a year off and do something fun. This would be really fun. So any questions, ask me or Brian, or jump onto the Slack. Thanks.
That's it for the presentations. I think we'll break out into... Yep. Oh, yep. Here's Jolie.
I just want to talk about the Internet Society and specifically the New York chapter. So Internet Society has been around since '82. It was founded by Vint Cerf and other internet pioneers. It's the organization behind the Internet Engineering Task Force. And it's now spun off a foundation that finances stuff. It is the original financier of NYC Mesh. So anyway, there are chapters all over the world, and there's a local chapter here in New York. Now, I was the president, and then I actually stepped back to do other things because I do live streaming for the Global Internet Society. But I still work. We have an accessibility special interest group in New York, and I still work with that on accessibility. So the point is that the people that actually run the local chapter, the president is just involved in ICANN affairs. He's a lawyer who just is involved in ICANN stuff. There's some people up in the Bronx who do a projects that they do basically community radio in NYCHA buildings in the Bronx. But basically nobody, since I stepped back, nobody's running the chapter. There are a lot of opportunities to approach things that aren't like mesh business. You know, that, I mean, even like this business of the city and the changing of the broadband policy, when, you know, it's not something that you can be active within the mesh, but if you actually went into like the Internet Society chapter, then you could use that as a vehicle to like make noise about that kind of thing. And what it is that because they then weren't doing anything, they nearly went into rejuvenation. So I've stepped back in as the administrator. I'm going to organize an election in about a month's time. And I'll be posting on the Slack. And what I want you to think about is if you might be interested in like getting yourself on the board and getting, you know, and having all the NYC Mesh people vote for you so you get on the board, you know, through the chapter, because it needs young blood. It needs people who are are interested in the kind of things that you guys are to come in and take over that chapter. It gets $2,000 a year administration money. You can access grants of up to like $5,000 for any project you fancy. Large grants up to $30,000, which is what NYC Mesh got before. It's a good thing. So I'm just saying, look out for that election and if you haven't joined the Internet Society, it's free. Just go ahead and do it, and you can select the New York chapter. Thank you.
Okay, so now we can now just break out into different discussion groups. Maybe this. And Zach wants to set up the community computer. Okay.
So I think tonight's theme is we have different advertisements between our presentations, right? So the advertisement here is we have a to-do, and we've promised the building here that we're going to have a couple PCs in this room, kind of over there, and there'll be kiosks for people who want to come in a community room and use internet. Maybe they don't have a PC in their house, or maybe it's not fast enough or doesn't work right. And so they're going to be not only that, but they're going to be a really fast connectivity for people to kind of sample and feel what the internet looks like and feels like when you have 10 gigabit internet. So we're going to have 2 computers over here that are going to be 10 gigabit connected. I have them here in a box, and we're going to start working on plugging them in tonight, see if we can get that working. To start with, they're just going to be kind of Linux with web browsers, and they're not going to be super beautiful in terms of like cleaning it up every every log out and things like that. But it's still pretty secure. It still wipes all the data after you log out. But moving forward, I'm working with a couple other people outside the mesh, some people who are interested in Linux deeply like I am, and we're working on an image, an OS image that will have, it'll be like a very easy to use kiosk that just logs you in. You get a browser, you get like an office suite, and it's all in memory. It's very fast, and you can just reboot the computer. It'll boot up in 10, 20 seconds, and you're in. All right? I used to do this a long time ago when I built school computer labs, but all of those distributions have really gone away. So I'm working on making a new one, and the goal would be not only for here, but for other places, like Mark mentioned, setting up other community rooms, we can use this, and we can just get various hardware rather than very specific hardware. It doesn't have to be 10 gig capable. It can be 1 gig or just anything, a pile of laptops, something like that. And we can boot them up on the mesh, on the network. If anyone knows like Pixie booting, we can just boot it off the network if we want to, or even local installation, and people will have kiosks. So the idea there is it's a sort of a side project, but a very tangential thing where we can make internet kiosks very quickly and efficiently. And I think it'd be kind of very useful for the mesh, especially in our community organizing, looking towards helping people who don't have computers and stuff like that. Right? So, cool. Thank you. Anyone else, or is that it? That's it. Thank you.